Well, how's it going, everyone? My name is Casper, and in this video I wanted to talk about pride. See my rainbowness? I am super rainbow today. Yep, all of the rainbow. So I wanted to make a video about this because every year it seems to make a lot of people angry. Conservatives and even gay people. And more importantly, I just want to ask, is pride a virtue or a sin? Does pride need to be fixed? Does it need to be changed? What is it about pride that isn't working or is working? Especially as a gay person myself, I think it's important to ask these questions. You shouldn't just participate in something just because. You should ask why. Why is it important?
Pride month. Well, what are we celebrating? And it's pride in relationship, as far as I can tell, to nothing but hedonistic self-gratification. It's like your identity is going to be your sexual desire. That's your identity. Your sexual desire. And now that's what we celebrate. Yeah, no, that's a very bad idea. That's the worship of the golden calf.
Okay, so believe it or not, I actually agree with Jordan Peterson. I don't agree with everything he says, but I do agree with him on this point. I think pride really has gotten out of control. I know I'm not the only gay person.
Pride Month is here, and so are the family-friendly events. In this video, we're going to go over why some people think that pride parades and all these events are not so family-friendly. Because here's the deal. Oftentimes I hear it's not that bad, they're not doing all this in front of children, or you're homophobic if you think kids don't belong at pride, and that's just not true. You're allowed to be critical of the LGBTQ community without hating them as a whole. You're allowed to call this stuff out without being homophobic, when in actuality, you're just really caring about children and understanding what's appropriate for them and what's not.
There's something about pride that's just not working. There's something about it that I feel like doesn't really capture what it means to have pride. So I don't think pride today really stands for what it stood for back in the 1970s. Back then, there was a really good reason to have pride because back in the day, you really were put down for your sexuality. You had to hide who you were. And then to come out and to really be yourself, I think is a big deal. There was a real movement. There was real activism behind this. The good thing about pride, or what it really stood for, was that it wasn't too long ago when gay people weren't respected. They had to hide who they were. They couldn't be themselves. I remember personally, back when I was growing up in elementary school and middle school, it wasn't really accepted. People, especially because I grew up in a conservative state, I know what it's like to hide yourself and to feel ashamed and to not feel good enough. I remember a lot of kids making fun of me for talking like a girl, for being sensitive. And so I was afraid to be gay. I felt ashamed of being this more sensitive kind of boy. There was something wrong with me, like I wasn't good enough, cool like the other boys. I was, just like a pansy or something. So I really like gay pride for that, in the sense that you just accept yourself as you are. That's really good, because I don't think if we had gay pride, if it weren't for the Stonewall gay rebellion, I don't know if gay marriage would even be allowed today. I don't know if gay people would really be accepted today. Although gay pride is kind of out of control, I'd much rather have a pride that's out of control than to have nothing at all, because it wasn't too long ago when gay people weren't really treated fairly and justly. And that's just in the United States. The rest of the world, I think, still has a long way to go. I don't want to lose that. We could quickly lose what we have if we're not careful. And that's why I feel like we need to rethink what pride is and to be thoughtful about it. So interestingly, conservatives, and especially Jordan Peterson, say that pride is a deadly sin.
How about we don't celebrate pride? Pride's a cardinal sin. The word's pride. That's the word that was chosen. So I don't care what the lies around that are.
It's one of the 7 deadly sins. It was responsible for Lucifer, God's best angel, for falling from heaven and going to hell. So pride seems to be, at least on the conservative side of things, to be a very bad thing. And, well, it makes me a little uncomfortable because, if I'm a gay person celebrating gay pride, am I celebrating a sin? Am I celebrating evil? I don't want to be evil. I want to be a good person. Being good is good. We should all aspire to be good. The Bible has numerous examples. Literally, I just found a website that just has so many quotations from the Bible talking negatively about pride. But the problem with these quotations is that they don't really explain why pride is bad. Like, why? I want to know the reason. I don't mean to be rude, but unlike religious people where they just accept things on faith and they just do what God says because they're mindless and obedient, I actually like to know why God says the things that he said. Does it make sense? Does it stand up to reason? And thankfully, there are other Christians who do favor rationality. And one of those Christians is a Christian philosopher known as St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas gives us rational and logical reasons for why pride is a sin and not a virtue. Wait a minute, are you telling me that there's such thing as a rational Christian? Isn't that a contradiction? Yes it is. It is a contradiction. But hey, you know what? This is the best we got. I admire Aquinas for at least trying to be rational and logical with his Christian faith. This is what Aquinas says about pride. Pride is so called because a man thereby aims higher supra than he is. Wherefore Isidore says, so he's quoting some guy, a man is said to be proud because he wishes to appear above, super, what he really is. End quote the man he quoted. Now this is Aquinas speaking. For he who wishes to overstep beyond what he is proud. So the prideful man is someone who oversteps his bounds. And then Aquinas says, now right reason requires that every man's will should tend to that which is proportionate to him. Therefore it is evident that pride denotes something opposed to right reason, and this shows it to have the character of sin, because according to Dionysius, the soul's evil to be opposed to reason. Therefore, it is evident that pride is a sin. Okay, so he's basically saying that prideful people are people who aim higher than they should. They pretend to be super, they tend to be above when they're not. And that's not in accordance to reason. So why might this be a problem? Because it's not enough to just, well, I think this kind of pride leads to arrogance or vanity. I don't think I need to explain what's wrong with arrogance or vanity. They're both bad things for obvious reasons. But does this apply to Pride Month? Do you see any arrogance or vanity in Pride Month? I mean, not really. I mean, there's a lot of big displays and a lot of people celebrating, but to be quite honest, I don't see anyone being arrogant. I don't see anyone aiming higher than they actually should. It's just people having fun. I mean, if you ask me, I don't think it's pride that's the problem. I think it's something entirely different. Okay, so similarly to pride, lust is also one of the 7 deadly sins in Christian ethics. I would say lust is probably the sin that this month is guilty of. Is this video going to be criticizing lust now? Well, no, we don't have time for that. This video is ultimately about pride. But the point is, what we're all upset about, what conservatives are getting upset about, is not really pride, but I think it's lust. I think it's people's inability to control their sexual behavior. And so we should be criticizing that. You know, the other thing is, I don't even think pride is really that bad, considering the fact that most of the stuff that people see, it's stuff that is blown out of proportion in the news. Conservatives love to jump on it and spread it around on social media. Last year I went to Pride, and it was my first time going because I don't go out and socialize that often. The only thing that I saw that was a little bit questionable was, so one guy was walking with his ass out. A few people were walking around in their underwear, but for the most part, no one was doing anything suspicious. You know, I think the only thing there that really bothered me about it was there was one of those games where you threw rings onto dildos, and that did make me a little bit uncomfortable. Not really for myself, I mean, I don't care, but for the people around me. And it really does seem that Pride Month is not family friendly, because if I had a son or daughter, I would probably not take them to Pride because of those little games like that. It is inappropriate and something that really shouldn't be happening, but is happening. As a libertarian, I think we should be free to express our sexuality however we want. The government does not belong in the bedroom. However, what happens in the bedroom stays in the bedroom. Of course, this video isn't about lust, it's pride. I'm getting off subject, so let's talk about pride.
Remember when pride was a sin? Pride was a sin and had been recognized as perhaps the cardinal sin for thousands of years previously. I don't regard pride as a virtue. It has been classically regarded as a sin.
Actually, remember when pride was a virtue? Yes, pride a long time ago was actually seen as a virtue. And I would like to read you a quote from the Nicomachean Ethics, which was written by Aristotle, who I think gives a very solid definition of pride. Here is the book. Don't you think it's funny that a pup is reading a book right now? Like, I don't know. I just think that's very strange. Pride seems, even from its nature, to be concerned with great things. What sort of great things is the first question we must try to answer. Now, the man is thought to be proud who thinks himself worthy of great things, for he who does so beyond his deserts is a fool. But no excellent man is foolish or silly. The proud man, then, is the man we have described. For he who is worthy of little and thinks himself worthy of little is temperate, but not proud, for pride implies greatness. On the other hand, he who thinks himself worthy of great things, being unworthy of them, is vain. So, I really like Aristotle's understanding because I think he provides a very much needed definition to what's happening. So what I think is really interesting here is that I think Aristotle and Aquinas agree. They're both essentially saying that it's bad to aim higher than what you're actually worth. And they both think it's bad because it's not based on reason. They're both rational people. They both believe in rationality. And part of being a rational person is being able to be accurately self-aware, to know who you are, to know your strengths, to know your weaknesses, and to know where you stand. Instead of this genuine pride that comes forth, it comes out as arrogance or vanity, where the person tries to show off, artificially construct a sense of greatness around them, similarly to a peacock fanning out his feathers, but really, deep down inside, the person is hollow and empty. They have no real self-esteem. It's all a facade. But I think we need to make an important distinction. While Aristotle and Aquinas both agree that arrogance and vanity are bad, Aristotle would challenge Aquinas on humility. Not only Aquinas, but Christians in general very much believe in humility, right? They see humility as a virtue. In the Bible, for example, in James 4:6, I haven't read the Bible. I'm planning on it, so just bear with me here. I'm just going to read it off the internet. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Okay. So God likes the humble. Aristotle even actually goes even further, says that the humble person is worse than the arrogant person. For the unduly humble man, being worthy of good things, robs himself of what he deserves, and seems to have something bad about him from the fact that he does not think himself worthy of good things, and seems also not to know himself, else he would have desired the things he was worthy of, since these were good. Yet such people are not thought to be fools, but rather unduly retiring. Such an estimate, however, seems actually to make them worse, for each class of people aims at what corresponds to its worth, and these people stand back even from noble actions and undertakings, deeming themselves unworthy, and from external goods no less. Vain people, on the other hand, are fools and ignorant of themselves. They attempt honorable undertakings, and then are found out, and they adorn themselves with clothing and outward show and such things, and wish their strokes of good fortune to be made public, and speak about them as if they would be honored for them. But undue humility is more opposed to pride than vanity is, for it is both commoner and worse. Pride, then, is concerned with honor on the grand scale, as has been said. So I think that is a very devastating and heavy blow to the Christian ethics. At least the vain person tries to aim higher. Even if they're faking it, even if they're a narcissist, at least they're trying to be great. At least they're trying to get somewhere. But the person who is humble, Aristotle says that there's probably something weak about them. They probably don't have any real strength, which is why they're humble. They don't get what they actually deserve. Someone who doesn't actually get what they deserve usually indicates that they don't actually know what goodness is. They don't know how they're being good. If they do anything good, they don't ask for anything good in return. I mean, the humble person is almost kind of delusional. Like, not really a part of reality, right? They're not very rational. So it's very interesting how Aquinas criticizes the vain person for not knowing themselves, for aiming higher than what they actually are. But he doesn't criticize the humble person who aims lower. Humility as a virtue gives Christians an excuse to kind of be weaklings, to not really aim for higher. Because as soon as you get over the sin of pride as vanity, you don't have to achieve anything great. You don't have to do anything. It's really easy to say you're a mouse when you're a mouse, as opposed to saying you're a lion when you're a house cat, or saying you're a lion when you're a lion. Hard to own up to being great because you don't want to make other people envious. When you do something great and fail, you're still aiming for something great. You're still trying to do your best. But if you're humble, you're not aiming for anything. You're not doing anything to achieve greatness, which ironically, I think Jordan Peterson criticizes this Christian position without even realizing it.
Well, if you're harmless, you're not virtuous. You're just harmless. You're like a rabbit. A rabbit isn't virtuous. It just can't do anything except get eaten. As a good citizen, he's just not enough to conquer a dragon. That's why a dragon hoards gold. It's like, what's up with that? Well, it'll eat you. And it will. But it has gold. Well, so what do you do about that? Well, what you want to do is face the dragon and get the damn gold. That's what you want to do. If you're a monster and you don't act monstrously, then you're virtuous.
And again, Aristotle said that people who are humble are of the commons, or even worse, right? Christians elevate the weak people. They elevate anyone. They see equality in everyone the same way that socialists elevate the poor. I think one saying in Christianity that really captures this humility is the idea that the salt of the earth shall inherit it. Average people will be rewarded. People who are not great will be rewarded. And that, to me, is a vice. That's wrong, and that should be criticized. A deep flaw in Christianity.
So for the rest of this video, I'd like to talk about what pride actually is. Because on the left and the right, it seems that no one is getting it right. So on the one hand, leftists confuse pride with lust, and on the other hand, people on the right confuse pride with arrogance and vanity. And although the right's criticism of arrogance is correct, we're still lost on what pride actually is. We don't actually know what it truly means. Well, I'd like to refer you to a book called Restoring Pride by Richard Taylor, if you can see this. I think this book really captures and really explains what pride is about, and I think is vital in our contemporary culture. And in the book Restoring Pride, Richard Taylor talks about how people today kind of are obsessed with this kind of egalitarianism, this equality at the expense of everything else. That you can't say some people are better than other people. You can't take pride in yourself if you're a genuinely good, decent person. You have to be quiet about it. And we have to elevate other people who clearly should not be elevated. And, that's the problem, and we need to fight that. We need to change this way of thinking in the culture where everyone is equal. We need to start asserting ourselves as individuals, noticing our strengths, taking pride in our strengths. Pride, how Christians think of it, is not really pride at all. For example, if there's a boss who likes to order people around and to control people, you would say he's kind of a proud man. He loves his position. Or an artist who's a good artist, but she spends more of her time trying to talk to other high status artists and name dropping really popular artists that she knows. Another example of a guy ordering around a server because he has the power to do so. Or someone who has a really big fancy car who shows off his wealth. These are all examples of people who don't really have pride. They can't take pride in themselves. And so real pride, as he defines it, is, he says that the good, that is, those who stand out as resourceful and creative human beings are entitled to take pride in themselves, for pride is the justified love of oneself.
So going back to Pride Month, or should I say Lust Month, if we were to set things straight, properly gay, Pride Month would be changed to Gay Acceptance Month, or Gay Rights Month, or Gay Celebration Month, or even, dare I say, Gay Pride Day, or Gay Pride Week. Maybe it doesn't have to be a month. The gay spirit should only be celebrated for 1 week. And, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that would be fine. Or we can celebrate it for a month. It's a free country. Who cares? The Christmas spirit is celebrated for all of December, and the Halloween spirit is celebrated for all of October. Conservatives don't like it. They need to stop being snowflakes and get over themselves. Again, it's a free country. Do you believe in individual liberty? You don't have to participate. You don't have to go to the gay pride parade. So what are you complaining about? Proper response to being ashamed of your sexuality is to recognize first that there's nothing wrong with your sexuality and to simply accept your sexuality, to simply embrace it. There's nothing wrong with being gay, but there's nothing amazing about being gay either. Wouldn't it be kind of weird if straight people took pride in their sexuality? Is there any excellence in being gay? Is there any excellence in wearing a pup mask and wearing a spiky collar? No. I mean, this stuff is cool. I mean, who doesn't like pup masks? I mean, I think this is awesome, obviously. Being gay is actually rather ordinary, especially nowadays. And just because gay people have been victimized in the past does not mean we need to go to the complete opposite and take this arrogant pride in ourselves. It just means we need to accept us as who we are and move on. Yeah, I'm gay, and that's normal, and that's cool, and that's it. And then, other people can say the same thing. However, I would say that having the courage to pursue one's desired sexual relationships, despite the culture and the people around you telling you no, is a virtue. I think that is something to take pride in. It's not the act in itself that is prideful. It's having the courage to be yourself that is pride. That's a real achievement. In a world that constantly shames you and puts you down, but you're still able to be who you are, that's a strength. That's something to be proud of, because a lot of people don't get this far, believe it or not. Even though in the United States people say, well, everyone's gay and it's easy to be gay, there are still people who are in the closet. There are men today who are in denial of their sexuality because they are deeply ashamed of it. Not only do they deny themselves the sex that they desire, but they project these negative feelings onto other gay people, so they hurt other gay people. And so ultimately, these men cannot take pride in themselves. They can't, or at least they can't take pride in their sexual life because they're not having the sex that they really want. Also like to add, right, because remember, I see pride as a little bit too lusty as opposed to pride. I feel like there's nothing really too prideful about it at all, in my opinion. So I'd like to add, like, when you do have sex, are you having healthy sex? Are you having sex with people that you want to have sex with? I mean, I know it's a stereotype and maybe it's not a fair criticism, but I see this with gay people all the time. They don't take great care of themselves sexually. They're too liberal with it. They just throw it around, they toss it around, they pass themselves around like a Kleenex to be blown into. Is not something to take pride in. That's almost something to take pity in, especially because there are studies that show that casual relationships, one-night stands, it's not really good for sex. It doesn't really feel that good. But just save yourself for someone that's really worth it and build a relationship with that person so that you can go deeper, so that you can feel more, so that you can explore more sexually, so that you can feel more pleasure.
Right, and this is just sexuality. Can you take pride in other aspects of your life? Can you take pride in your career? Can you take pride in your relationships? And relationships are very much connected to sexuality. Can you take pride in your family life? Can you take pride intellectually? Can you take pride in your life as a whole? Can you genuinely say that you're proud of yourself? Are you proud of your character? Are you proud of who you actually are? Okay, I switched angles. I had to get my good side because, I don't know, the other side was making me look ugly. Not really taking proper pride in myself, am I? I'm focusing too much on my appearance. But you have to admit, this is so much better. It really highlights the better portion of my facial features. So anyway, as I was saying, I don't know about you, but as a gay person, sometimes I often find myself feeling the need to conform to gay culture. This need to kind of mold myself to fit the group or to mold myself to fit the gay profile. And in many ways, I feel like I lose who I truly am. I lose my individuality. I don't think that's right. It's okay to be your own person. It's okay to not have to really belong anywhere. If you try to take pride in yourself, if you're proud of yourself for things that aren't really you, if you're proud of yourself for just being part of a group or a country or a nation or a class or whatever it is, that's narcissism. That's not pride. It's like an extreme form of arrogance and vanity. It's where you're so hollow as a human being that the only thing you can be proud of are things that have nothing to do with you, or you trying to take credit for things that don't actually belong to you. You don't have the right to take credit for them. I think we see that a lot in our society today. So when we ask ourselves, like, what does it mean to have real pride? It means to truly feel good about yourself, for being yourself, for doing things and achieving things that genuinely make you happy. Aquinas said in Summa Theologica, pride can be a motivation for all other sins. And in a very strange way, Aristotle mirrors this concept, except Aristotle says pride is the crown of all virtues. It's kind of like the motivation for doing good. If you're motivated to get credit in a way that is genuine, accurately reflects who you are, then that's pride. Or am I getting credit for things that have nothing really to do with me, which is narcissism? So you really need to make sure you know which one you're talking about. And so from this perspective, I definitely believe that pride is a virtue. So in Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand perfectly explains pride, I think, better than anyone ever has. Even better than Richard Taylor, although I think his book is amazing. This is my copy of Atlas Shrugged. I have this beautiful copy. Look at this. Aren't they wonderful? I love the art in this. It's so beautiful. It really makes me feel like I'm in the objectivist world. In Atlas Shrugged, there's the famous speech by John Galt, and it essentially explains Ayn Rand's philosophy. He goes through the 7 major virtues, and the very last virtue in objectivism is pride. And I'd like to read you that section because it's absolutely amazing. Pride is the recognition of the fact that you are your own highest value. And like all of man's values, it has to be earned, that of any achievement open to you. And the one that makes all others possible is the creation of your own character. That your character, your actions, your desires, your emotions, are the products of the premises held by your mind. That as a man must produce the physical value he needs to sustain his life, so he must acquire the values of character that make his life worth sustaining. That as man is being of self-made wealth, so he is being of self-made soul. That to live requires a sense of self-value, but man who has no automatic values has no automatic sense of self-esteem, and must earn it by shaping his soul in the image of his moral ideal, in the image of man, the rational being he is born able to create, but must create by choice. That the first precondition of self-esteem is the radiant selfishness of the soul, which desires the best in all things, in values of matter and spirit, a soul that seeks above all else to achieve its own moral perfection, valuing nothing higher than itself. And that the proof of an achieved self-esteem is your soul's shudder of contempt and rebellion against the role of a sacrificial animal, against the vile impertinence of any creed that proposes to immolate the irreplaceable value, which is your consciousness, and the incomparable glory which is your existence, to the blind evasions and the stagnant decay of others. Ayn Rand said that pride was moral ambitiousness. And for the longest time, I didn't understand what she meant by that. Like, moral ambitiousness, I've never heard that kind of phrasing before from somebody. It wasn't until making this essay that I finally realized what she was really saying, what she really meant by it. The thing is, if you really want to take pride in yourself, if you really want to feel that good feeling, having a good character, you need to ask yourself, well, what does it mean to have a good character? Am I living up to a good character? Well, it requires self-awareness. It requires self-awareness in all aspects of your life and being able to achieve greatness in all of these aspects of your life. Pride is the fuel. It's the engine. It's putting power into your virtues. Because people who don't have pride in themselves, as I said earlier, they don't really understand what goodness is. They don't really know themselves. If they do good, they don't know how it's good. They don't really feel that good feeling for doing something good. Richard Taylor, all throughout his book, Restoring Pride, you gotta find something that you can do that is truly spectacular and brilliant and creative and resourceful. You gotta find that strength that you have to obtain true pride. Because most people, as he says, spend their lives mostly not doing anything of significance or importance. They just get through life without having to really be the best that they can be, and it's sad. It's sad to see people not try to be the best that they can be, to not feel good about their lives. They just live their lives and then that's it. They didn't achieve anything great. They didn't do anything great. They didn't take this wonderful gift that they have and do something with it. You have in you something that can be regarded as being, if not divine, at least something uniquely human and good. It resides in the power of your mind to think and act creatively. It is that makes you a person in the first place. You are not a person just by virtue of having 2 arms and 2 legs and an upright stature, or being part of a nation or a group or having a sexual orientation. There is no uniquely human worth in these. Your worth as a person lies within you, and unless you treasure it and cultivate it, it dies, and with it whatever worth you ever had. Your primary business in life should be to not let this happen. Whatever may be the solicitations of the world, the temptations of wealth or power or status, or recognition, or whatever, you will, if you have any sense of personal worth, scorn these in favor for only one thing that this sense of worth can rest upon. You should not, indeed really cannot, love yourself for your wealth, or status, or power, however much these may impress others. But you can love yourself for what you are, provided that you are is worth loving. If it is, your self-love will be justified, and you will be proud. Richard Taylor says that pride is the justified love of oneself. Aristotle says that pride is the happy medium between being humble and being arrogant, or being vain. And Ayn Rand says that pride is moral ambitiousness. And to add on to all of these great and wonderful thinkers, I think pride is a kind of quiet pleasure that one takes in their achievements and their character. They don't need to show off. They don't need to tell anyone. They don't need money or honor or status or recognition, because the reward for doing something great, the reward for doing something grand, is the pride. It's the pleasure in realizing that you did it. And that is enough to make yourself happy. You don't need anyone else to know. And the people who really want other people to know about how great they are or the value that they've done, I think, are narcissists. They try to take shortcuts. They care more about the recognition than the actual achievement that they're achieving. They care more about the money and the wealth and the position and the status more than doing what truly makes them happy, than truly developing their character and worth and happiness inside of themselves. Go do something great with your life and be proud of it.